Welcome to Metal Forge Reviews, where you can get the most out of your metal releases. As hardworking musicians ourselves, we want to show you what it's like for bands to go through the process of creating, recording, and releasing a record. We also think it's fun to look at these bands and their releases through a cultural lens, and to discuss the impact of the records and the bands on the music scene itself. So let's take a look at today's review. Russian band Kauan is back with their unique form of atmospheric music. Their latest full-length album, Ice Fleet, was released April 9th on Art of Fact Records. This is a band that has consistently developed their sound over the years, but they've always delivered a very moody and atmospheric layering on their records. Like some of you, I first discovered this band with their 2015 release, Sorny Nai, a dreamy post-metal album about hikers mysteriously disappearing in a blizzard. Based on a true story too. It's an epic release and you really feel like you're trapped in a blizzard with these hikers. So what makes Kauan's Ice Fleet a standout record in this crowded subgenre of atmospheric black gaze bands? Let's bring it to the forge and unravel it. As I just mentioned, Kauan are masters of atmosphere, so it was no surprise as to how captivating this record was. The whole record showcases a very haunting atmosphere that is carried from beginning to end. It really feels like you've been pulled out to sea after your ship has been capsized and you're barely surviving in the frigid waters as you cling on to driftwood. There are lots of droning elements on this record which adds to the atmosphere, but I will get into that a little bit later with the composition analysis because the ebb and flow of the atmospheric and the musical sections can be a bit jarring. This could be intentional, but it left me wishing for smoother transitions. Overall, the atmosphere on this record is very unique and worthy of a score of 4 out of 5. So let's shoot it over to a clip provided by Artifact Records that shows an unboxing of a copy of the Ice Fleet vinyl and the RPG rulebook. I think it's so cool that bands are releasing music in conjunction with games. This really is a perfect album to put on in the background while you're sitting around with friends doing some role playing. And man, look at that album cover. This has to be one of my favorite album covers of the year. I love the thick horizontal brushstrokes that make up the ocean in the sky. Man, and I love how it contrasts with the fine pearl white brushstrokes that make up the vessels. Just, man, these are some of my favorite colors. And speaking of favorite colors, look at that vinyl. Awesome. This is something that is special. It's a whole complete kit and caboodle package here, if you will. It's not just music, but it's a whole experience. Definitely 5 out of 5. Does Kauan's musicianship and songwriting match their atmosphere? Unfortunately, I don't quite think they're locked in with their musical focus on this one. The album can be a bit droning and repetitive at times, which I don't really mind, but the metal sections of the record come in too sporadically and never feel really entirely resolved, or that they even have a real place on the record. The album, however, is masterfully paced with 7 songs at 41 minutes, and it really begs to be played more than once. For highlight songs, I chose the more metal, post-metal oriented songs, Manpaco, Raivo, and Hota. While there are some great tracks, as I just mentioned on Ice Fleet, the overall composition is disjointed. This album seems to have a bit of an identity crisis in terms of what it wants to lean into. Is it black gaze? Is it post-rock? Is it ambient? It never really commits to one or the other. Composition's about average, 3 out of 5. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any details as to who oversaw the audio engineering on this record, but I have to give them credit for putting out some fine production. I love the sound effects of the creaking ships. They use synths to mimic radar pings, which is a really cool effect. There are tons of synths on here, and everything really sits beautifully in the EQ and volume ranges. The production on this really helps to boost the atmosphere, so I think it deserves a noteworthy score of 4 out of 5. While we did not put out a YouTube poll, as we sometimes do in regards to the community feedback, I did put up a Instagram post the other day, and we had some comment. Dream Glamour said, "Can't wait for the tabletop game, pre-ordered that and the vinyl." This is just such a cool thing. There's a game that comes with this album, and the type of game that comes with it is just perfectly married to this type of music. Mellow Mig, most expected for April indeed. So it looks like there are a few people that have been excited for this record. Haven't heard anyone really come out and say how they feel about it. So definitely leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think. So after adding up my scores, this album gets 4 out of 5 floating sea vessels. I'm going to use a term coined by Necrotic Nick over at Thralls of Metal. This is great nighttime driving music. Add this to your post-rock and black gaze collections, and if you're into role-playing games, definitely be sure to check this out, or tag along with somebody who has this and jump into a game or something. Seems like it could be a lot of fun. Make sure that you go to the Artifact Records or the Kauan Bandcamp page to support these guys. That's it. As always, you rule. Thanks for watching, Forge Masters. Go with the gods. Goodbye.